Hi, this is Steve Siebold. We're here at the Bone Allen Mansion with Greg Strynadka from World Financial Group. Greg is an executive vice chairman with the company. He's based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and one of the most successful people in the history of World Financial Group. So, Greg, thanks for coming to the mansion.
Thanks for having us.
It's good to see you. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
How did you get started in this crazy business?
Well, we're going back just about 16 years, January of 2003.
And how old were you then?
22.
22, okay.
Yeah, so my family was in a juice and smoothie franchise business at the time. I grew up in a family that was entrepreneurial. Mom and dad always wanted to have a family business, and they'd checked out every business that you could imagine, whether it was something network marketing related with vitamins or something like that, or bricks and mortar sort of coffee shop type franchises. And in about 2001, it turned out to be a juice and smoothie franchise that was kind of up and coming in Canada, in the area that we were from. And so I was running that business for a couple of years, and I just slowly grew more and more dissatisfied because I realized there was no way that my goals and dreams were going to come true if I stayed running a smoothie franchise. And from the outside looking in, it would have been interesting because our store was busy. We were one of the busiest stores in that whole company. But busy doesn't mean that it's making money. And even if it was making money, it doesn't mean you have any freedom of time.
Sure.
And so I was just looking for something else. The timing was perfect. I didn't want to pour smoothies and boss teenagers around for the rest of my life.
Right.
And a gentleman that owned a smoothie store with the same franchise, with the same company in Calgary, he called me up one day to talk to me about World Financial Group. He'd actually initially spoken with my dad to try to get my dad into the business. And turned out my mom and dad's were actually already clients of World Financial Group.
Oh.
So they had investment plans and all that sort of thing. And so they were clients of WFG already. And so my dad wasn't interested in WFG at the time and from an opportunity standpoint. But he said, well, hey, you should talk to Greg. It sounds like Greg might be interested in doing that.
Okay. And did you were always kind of entrepreneurial minded because of your parents probably?
I think that's where it came from.
Did you go to, what did you study in school?
High school.
You did high school. You didn't go to college?
No.
University?
I didn't go to college.
Okay.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think I would have got in.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. I got in. I don't know how I got in.
Yeah. The things that I was interested in were the programs that were really difficult to get into, like journalism and, maybe things that a lot of slackers that don't like studying would want to go into.
Sure.
Journalism or radio or something like that. Those programs were really hard to get into. There was huge demand, and I don't think my grades would have supported it anyways.
Yet today you're a self-made millionaire.
Team-made millionaire.
Team-made millionaire. That's really a better phrase, isn't it?
It is.
It's really a nicer phrase too.
Yeah.
Team-made millionaire.
I don't think anybody gets really wealthy doing it on their own.
I think you're right. Yeah. I've been interviewing, as you know, millionaires for 34 years, and we always say self-made because that's the label.
Right?
It's the term. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Who gets rich on their own? Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. So walk us through. So this person calls you up. Mm-hmm. How did you respond initially? Were you negative? Were you positive?
Mostly positive, I think. Curious. I didn't really know what he was talking about, to tell you the truth. Something to do with financial company and let's go for coffee. And your dad said you'd probably be interested. And I said, okay, let's meet and let's go for coffee. And I'll never forget. I remember the exact coffee shop that it was at, 170th Street in Edmonton, Alberta. It was a coffee shop that was matched up with a bagel place in the same location. And I was instantly just riveted by what I saw. I realized a massive need for everything that WFG was doing and offering: independent broker, training, support, build a business, have a mentor, people will support you. I'd become extremely mildly interested in network marketing a few years before.
Extremely mildly.
Well, kind of, is that even a way to phrase it? But meaning that I saw a couple of presentations from kind of health product related companies, and the part at the end about you can build a team and have overrides and then not work and still make money, that always seemed to me like a great idea.
Brilliant, right?
However, they were never products that I could really be passionate about. The dollars and cents didn't really add up for me. I thought, how many customers am I going to need that buy this $100 pack of vitamins, for me to make a living? The numbers just didn't add up.
Right.
The part that the intrigue that never left me was having a team, building a business, earning money when you're not there. And I realized that in our franchise business, it was never going to happen. I was barely making a living, probably working 60, 65 hours a week. And I'll never forget it, $1,100 paychecks every second Friday. So I had to try to fit my goals and dreams into and now this is 16, 17 years ago. So things were a little cheaper then, but nonetheless, you can't live a dream life on $1,100 every second Friday, especially when you're working all the time.
Sure. Yeah. Retail's brutal, isn't it?
Oh, it was horrible.
That's a tough business, yeah.
It was really tough. I learned a lot. I met a lot of great people, and it was through connections from that business that I found out about WFG. So I definitely can't say it was all bad. I learned a lot. I met a lot of great people, and I learned something that I didn't want to do for the rest of my life.
Sure. Yeah. Does your mom and dad think you were crazy?
They were pretty supportive. Yeah,
wow, that's great. So entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, they were supportive. Very luckily, part of it was probably because they were clients of the company already, of WFG, so they knew the products were great. And part of it was probably because the honeymoon phase had worn off in our franchise. So at the beginning, we were able to make a decent living, but the company that we were a part of grew from 4 stores in Edmonton to maybe 25 stores in Edmonton. There just wasn't enough market to go around. So when your sales start dropping by a couple $100,000 a year, and a lot of that is just coming straight off of your profits that you're going to be able to take home. So the writing was kind of on the wall that we weren't really going to be able to have the dream life that we thought we were going to be able to have through that business. And I think that was probably why. And they knew I just wasn't super happy. And fortunately, through the WFG model, this is just such a great blessing, but I was able to start part-time. So I didn't have to, even though it was only $1,100 every second Friday, I needed that $1,100 every second Friday to make my car payment, to pay my mortgage. And so fortunately, I was able to start part-time. And then after about a year, things were going well enough that I was able to make a transition and leave our store. We put it up for sale. It sold maybe about a year later.
And your parents got out of the business as well?
They did, for sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And now, and going back to high school, were you always a numbers person? Did you excel in math or finance in high school or anything like that?
I would say that I was not bad at math. I never bothered to figure out trigonometry and those types of things because I saw zero real life application for it.
Yeah.
Maybe not a great message for students. You got to pass your courses.
Yeah.
You got to get through. But I never applied myself to things like that because I couldn't see any real world value to them.
Sure.
So I wasn't terrible by any means at math, but I just kind of got by. In everything to do with school, I just kind of got by. And I think that one of the things with WFG is that I realized that everything that I was learning was actually going to help me. If they were teaching me how to talk to people, how to do a presentation, if they were teaching me about investments and insurance and handling objections or answering questions, I realized that those were skills that were actually going to help me do something that mattered.
Yeah, go figure. You can actually get practical education, right?
Yeah. And then the other thing that I realized, I definitely came into the business intending to be successful. The plan was, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make it work. But I guess in the back of my mind, when we have a big decision to make, we should probably do somewhat of a pros and cons list in our head. And I thought, okay, at the time it was a couple $100 to get started, and it was going to take some of my time to show up. And so my pros and con list, I thought, well, what's the worst case scenario? A month or two later, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. Whatever the case, I thought worst case scenario, I'm going to learn a whole bunch about money.
Right.
And then on top of that, I started to realize, this probably took maybe a few weeks in the business, but I started to realize the other worst case scenario is I would just learn a bunch of skills that would be valuable in anything that I went to pursue.
Sure.
Whether, not just the financial stuff, but just learning how to do a presentation and answer questions and human nature and marketing and sales and all of that type of thing. So I looked at it that there was not really a worst case scenario out of a couple $100 investment and some time.
Right. Okay, so walk us through the beginning. How long did it take you to go full time?
A year.
A year. That's pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, so the bad thing about making $1,100 every 2 weeks is you only have $1,100 every 2 weeks.
Right.
The good news about it coming into this business is I didn't have a lot of income to replace.
Sure.
So I only really needed to.
Well, you're 22 as well. 23,
so
right?
I needed probably 1 or 2 clients a month to be able to replace what I was making.
Right.
But the challenge for me at the beginning, my lack of studying in high school kind of came back and bit me in the ass a little bit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Sure, yeah.
Because I didn't have skills. I didn't know how to study. As maybe dumb as that sounds, I didn't know how to study.
Sure.
And so then when it came to studying the course, initially I remember I asked Rial, I said, is it multiple choice? He said, yeah, it's multiple choice. Perfect.
All C's all the way down, baby.
Yeah, I got this. So
we all learned that one.
ACDC.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought, I literally, and this is crazy and laughable now, but I literally thought I would glance at the book for an hour or two and then I would go pass.
Yeah, right.
And it is not that way. And it's not that way for anybody. And for somebody that had no financial background, no study skills, it was definitely not that way. So I had an extremely rude awakening after my studying for 2 hours, go and write the exam, get 32% or something like that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Discouraged for a while, kept at it, but kind of long story short, it ended up taking me 8 months to get through the licensing, where I would say on average, it's probably more like 6 to 8 weeks. Some people even do it in 5 days or 10 days, and it took me 8 months. Now, it wasn't 8 months because I was studying every single day.
Right.
It was 8 months because I enjoyed the part of the business of talking to people and learning about money.
Sure,
and finance.
yeah.
And so I spent my time doing the business and learning the hands-on part. And I remember going to my first Vegas convention in the summer of 2003, and somebody in the hallway said, "Oh, how long have you had your license?" And I thought, I don't actually have my license. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks that I wasn't really in this business until I actually had my license. So
sure.
I went and bared down and whatever somebody wants to kind of call it, God or the universe or whatever it is, somebody somewhere was looking out for me because I squeaked by miraculously and passed all of my exams and got through it. So that was a major. I remember writing and it works a little bit different in Canada than in the US for the study process, but I was writing the pre-qualification exam for the third time. And I remember staring at the page saying, if I don't pass, I'm out. And I don't know if I actually would have followed through on that, but that was how frustrated I was.
That would have been expensive.
Staring at
for you. Yeah, that's a lot of money you would have walked away
a lot
from.
Of money. That's probably close to $10 million of career earnings now. And
that's
more importantly than that is all of the people, all of the clients, tens of thousands of clients that we've helped over the last 16 years to get proper insurance and savings plans, and all of the, those people would have missed out on getting those products and services. So it wasn't easy at the beginning. Just battling through that licensing process was the hardest thing in my life up until that point.
How long did it take you to make money? Like say 75,000 Canadian, somewhere in that neighborhood?
So my first year I made about $12,000, and in my second year I made close to 70,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did you do differently from the 12 to the 70?
I worked pretty hard in the business right from day one. There wasn't a ton of slacking going on. I mean, there was ups and downs, good days, bad days, but I got after it pretty good right at the beginning. So I don't really feel that I did all that much different in my second year compared to the first year. It's just that my efforts compounded. Okay. It just naturally took some time to get good at the business, and then even a little bit longer to get great at the business. And one of the things that I feel sad about is that so many people don't give our business the opportunity they don't stay around for enough time to actually get good at the business. They're not making $5,000 or $10,000 a month 6 months in, and then they're out. And we all learn at a little bit different paces. Sure. One of my trainers made $100,000 in his first year. Wow. And so there's a phrase that we use: compete but don't compare. If I would have compared myself too much to him, then maybe I would have thought, well, I only made $12,000 my first year. He made $100,000. Maybe this isn't for me. Right. Maybe I shouldn't bother doing this. So I made about 68 in the second year. I think the numbers are 128 in the next year, 199 the next year, and then 421 the year after that. So around 27 years old, we were around $500,000. Wow. Income. Yeah. That's a lot of money, especially when you're 27 years old, right? Yep. Right. And, and going back to your point about, if people don't make $5,000 to $10,000, say a month, in a short period of time, they quit. Yeah. In what business do you get $5,000 to $10,000 a month in the black? I mean, I've had businesses where we were in the red for 5 years. Yeah. Then you start to turn the corner. And if you make $12,000 in the black, you've turned the corner. It's actually good. You made that actually your first year right in the black, I'm assuming. Yeah. Yeah. So that's something to think about. It didn't feel like a lot of money at the time, but now in hindsight, I think, wow, I was able to make some money part-time while I was just learning how to do this. With no debt, right? Yeah, with no. Yeah. I mean, usually you have to invest, millions of dollars or at least hundreds of thousands of dollars to start anything. It's time. It's sweat equity. Yeah. That's all it is. Yeah.
Do you think it's because most people don't know that? They don't, because I always think when I look at you guys, and, I've been around you guys for 13 years as a vendor and that type of thing. It seems to me that, because I've never really understood it when audiences, because I'll come up to you at book signings mostly, because they know you guys aren't listening, the leaders, Yeah. They'll come up and say, should I keep doing this? I mean, I'm not making money sometimes, I'm not making, my wife's beating me up. My husband doesn't think I should be, all that stuff you've heard a million times. And they'll say it to me because I'm an outside third party. I'm safe. I'm nobody, right? I'm not in the, I'm on the outside. And, what I always say is, do you know what it costs to start a business? The risk you have to take? I don't think most people realize the risks of being an entrepreneur. No. You're $12,000. It's not a lot of money, but you're in the black the first year, totally. Right? Yeah. Do you think that's what it is? They don't understand because they've never been on you'd been on the entrepreneurial side. Yeah. With the smoothie business, right? Yeah. Do you think that's what it is?
Yeah, I would say that that's probably the number one reason is they don't know how good they have it. Yeah. And unfortunately, people run from things that are uncomfortable, whether it's something to do with fitness or something to do with their finances. Paying off debt is uncomfortable, right? To spend less money and to pay off debt, or to spend less money and invest more, or to eat less or order a salad for lunch instead of a burger and fries. I mean, these are all things that are uncomfortable, and our business can be uncomfortable for people at the beginning. They're maybe putting on dress clothes. They don't normally wear dress clothes. Instead of on a Tuesday night, in Canada we watch hockey, right? So instead of maybe Canadian Tuesday night in the wintertime, they hang out and watch the hockey game with their friends. And instead, we're encouraging them to put on a suit and come to an office and sit in a class, money and finance. And then also they're learning how to talk to people. And some of the people that they care about are saying, I'm not interested, or even beyond that, they're maybe saying what you're doing is not going to work. And so it's all of these things are things that could be making them uncomfortable. And people don't like to be uncomfortable. Whereas I think that a quality of successful people is that they're willing to get uncomfortable. They realize that the things they want in their life are outside of their comfort zone, as opposed to inside of their comfort zone.
Do you think that people really, you're saying they're staying home and watching hockey or whatever instead of coming in, all of a sudden they don't want to do things that are uncomfortable. You think it's because they don't realize that you're offering them with the WFG platform, you're offering them the chance to never have to think about money another day in their life. Do you think they realize the magnitude of what you guys actually offer people?
We try our best to help them see the magnitude of what we're offering them, but it is difficult to see. And even if they believe that it's a good company with good products, they have a hard time. So once they get past that point where they believe it's a good company, they believe it's good products, then they're battling the whole, could it happen to them? Could they do it? So one thing that I encourage my associates in their interactions with potential prospects and recruits and that sort of thing is remember that in their head, there's two questions that they might not ask you outright, but they're wondering, is this good for people? So we need to be constantly weaving that into as we're talking to them, helping them understand how it is great for people. And the other thing that's always running through their mind is they're wondering if they could actually.
Can I do it?
Yeah. So that's another thing that we have to be weaving in, is helping them build belief, talking about the system, talking about how there's training classes, talking about how, my background wasn't in the financial industry. This company helped me learn everything. It just takes time and you got to put some work in. And so we need to always be weaving in answering those questions because they're thinking them, but they might not ask us.
Sure. Did you know in the early days that you were going to make it, or was there a certain point where something changed, it switched in your mind, you thought, I'm going to be rich doing this?
I would say that I knew I was going to make it, but that doesn't mean that I didn't have doubt or bad days along the way. Sure. For instance, I remember, so the day that I sat down and learned about WFG, it was a Saturday morning, 11 o'clock, 11:30 at the coffee shop I was talking about earlier. And I don't remember if the dinner that evening was pre-planned or not, but I was going out for dinner with my mom and dad, kind of neighborhood restaurant, or one of our favorite places that we'd gone kind of forever. And I was just vibrating. I was so excited about WFG. And the bill came at the end of the night, and I looked at my mom and dad. I said, I got dinner tonight because I found a business today that I'm going to make a lot of money.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of funny remembering that. But so I knew I was going to make it. I planned to make it. I didn't come in to just try it. I came in planning to succeed, but that doesn't mean that there weren't moments. There were moments along the way that I doubted myself and was this going to work? But I came in planning to succeed for sure, 100%.
Were you ever on the verge of quitting? Where you just thought maybe this isn't going to work out for me.
There was moments, the one where I'm staring at my exam for the third time going, if I don't pass, I'm out.
Sure.
That was what was running through my mind. Would I have actually quit? I mean, who knows? I had great leadership working with Real, so I hope that Real would have probably tried to talk me into not quitting. So who knows how that could have played out. And then there definitely were some moments where, a client cancels the appointment or says they don't want the plan anymore. Or you have a new person on your team that you're working with and they just kind of disappear or they quit for some reason. And I remember one time where it's hard to say, was I really close to quitting? Realistically, probably not. But I remember one of those moments where I was at least I was thinking about it. And I remember asking myself, I kind of called myself out. I said, okay, tough guy, if you don't do this, what are you going to go do?
Right.
And so I started running through things in my mind and I thought, let's see, I probably would want to work in sales because if I'm getting paid commission, it means I could make more money. So what could I go sell? Okay, let's say that I go and sell suits, men's clothing. Well, how much can I make doing that?
Right.
50 grand, 100 grand,
right.
Having a job, working 50, 60 hours a week, no control.
Back to retail, right?
I'm like,
on your feet.
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
No, that's not going to be it. And then I thought maybe I'll go sell nice cars, Mercedes or something like that. Maybe
sure.
I could get a job doing that. And then I thought kind of same thing. Maybe could I make $100,000, $200,000 a year doing that? But same thing, back to having a job, having somebody else tell me what hours I need to work, no freedom. I don't think it would be as fulfilling to sell cars as it would be to do what we do, getting to help people. Because I've been in the business for, I don't know, let's call it a year and a half at that point. So I knew what we were doing was good for people. And then I cycled through and thought maybe if I don't do WFG, I'll go be a mortgage broker or a real estate agent. And then I realized that to be successful as a mortgage broker or a real estate agent, that I would have to do all the things
exactly
that I would have to do.
A fight's a fight, right?
Yeah, I would have to do all of the same prospecting, learning the words, taking rejection, riding that kind of entrepreneur roller coaster.
Yeah.
If I was going to be a real estate agent or a mortgage broker anyways, and I felt that the best opportunity by far in terms of the reward for me and my future family was going to be if I had to do that work anyways, it would be at WFG. To put in the work here would be where there was the greatest reward. So absolutely had those ups and downs and doubts. And I remember dealing with some people that were pretty negative at the beginning about what I was doing.
Sure.
There was one lady that was a customer at our store that I met with her, and she just lambasted us for a half an hour, went on and on and on about all these negative things she found on the internet and all these kind of things. And it was demoralizing. I mean, I went into the appointment thinking it was going to be amazing. She was a nice woman, a professional of some kind. And I stepped back, just whatever that meant. Maybe I didn't talk to very many people for the next few days because I was kind of licking my wounds.
Sure.
And then a few months later, she came into the store, into our Booster Juice, and she made a comment to me, and she said, hey, some of those financial ideas you guys were talking to me about a few weeks ago, I just went to another advisor and put a bunch of those things in place.
Oh,
and I thought,
right to the heart.
But the crazy thing is, I thought 2 months ago, you were tearing a strip off of us up and down about how this company wasn't credible and wasn't this and wasn't that.
Right.
And then you go and take the information that we gave you and put it in place with another company. So I guess I was part angry, but I was also part validated that, wow, you were telling me everything was so bad, but you took our advice and implemented it into your own finances.
Right, sure.
And I had a roommate that lived in my basement that was super negative. I started to get into personal development, and I took it pretty literally. The things I was hearing at WFG and learning, I started reading good books and positive self-talk and all of these type of things. And I remember some speaker had talked about he'd put up little signs in his house, play like a champion, or put your goals up so that you wake up in the morning and your goals are next to you and it's the first thing you think about. And by the way, I still believe in all that.
Absolutely,
stuff today, right?
Yeah. And it sounds cheesy, but it works.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And my roommates at the time would take my signs down and write stupid little phrases on there, like "ha ha."
Wise guys.
Yeah, exactly. "Ha ha, dumbass."
Yeah, right.
Different things on my signs.
Yeah.
And I just remember using that as fuel. That I thought, man, I'm going to show these guys. I mean, who's going to be laughing 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Sure.
And I've completely lost touch with them just because I don't, over as time goes by, you kind of lose having things in common when people are negative and cynical and in a life that they're not happy with, that they talk about it all the time, that they're not happy with it, but they don't do anything about it.
Sure.
And then I'm in a positive environment, in a helping people kind of business, talking about goal setting and personal development and all of that sort of thing. So I went through all that kind of negativity with not some of my close friends were very supportive, and I'm extremely thankful of that to this day. My immediate family and most of my really good friends were very supportive. But I absolutely went through that negative, some of those negative people the same way that probably anybody does in our business.
Do you think it made you more mentally tough because you did get the pushback? Can you talk about the role mental toughness has played in your success?
Yeah, I think mental toughness is so important in our business, or for that matter, anything that you're trying to do that is a little bit out of the ordinary.
Sure.
And whether it's something fitness related or financial related or business related, and a lot of mental toughness to me comes down to self-talk. What do you tell yourself?
Sure.
And so I would flip those sort of things that those guys were saying to me, and I would remind myself how awesome it was going to be 3 years from down the road or 5 years down the road when I was making X number of dollars and I was driving whatever car and I was traveling to all of these places, and I would remind myself of those types of things. So it would help me to turn things into fuel. And I think people that are mentally tough, they find little ways where they can kind of trick themselves to turn negatives into positives. And so I remember there was a moment where I believe it was a Friday evening, and I was supposed to go and sit down with a client, and there was a pretty good piece of business to do for them. They needed it, because of course we don't do anything if it's not good for them. So they needed it, and I was going to make money and get paid to do it. And maybe 2 hours before the appointment, I get a phone call that they're canceling the appointment and they don't want to sit down anymore. So it was really a defining moment for me. I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, and this appointment just canceled. We had products and services the client needed. I recall that part of it being something to do with life insurance. They didn't have proper coverage in place. And my first reaction was being very, just feeling rejected, feeling down. And then my mental toughness, self-talk started to kind of kick in. And instead of feeling bad for myself, I started to feel bad for them because they were leaving their family unprotected and they weren't saving money in the best places.
Right.
And it was an opportunity. It's the first time that I could really remember vividly reminding myself of this. I reminded myself that I turned it into a positive, that it's a good thing that not everybody says yes, because if everybody said yes, there'd be no opportunity left for me.
Right.
I'm going to be willing to do what it takes. So I'll be able to have that lifestyle of helping tons of people, making tons of money, because I'm willing to go through moments like this and face this and get through it,
Sure.
where a lot of people probably aren't going to be willing to. So I kind of tricked myself into looking at that sort of interaction as an actual good thing, as opposed to just a downer and maybe I shouldn't do this and that type of thing.